the script for the quasi-judicial. I just printed it in bigger font. It's still on here. So this is for the Winco.
Oh, yeah. Good. As long as we get some people in there, get the word out. Yep. Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the November 8th, 2023 Federal Way City Council
Recording
meeting.
in progress.
Welcome to the Federal Way City Council meeting for November 8th, 2023. I need to excuse Councilmember Tran, who is unavailable and out of state, and Councilmember Lydia Acefa Dawson is appearing via Zoom. And with that, would you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, welcome everybody. Before we just go into emerging issues and report, we've got quite a number of people. Oh, thank you very much. We've got quite a number of individuals here for our proclamation for Native American Heritage Month. Council, is it okay if we take care of that and handle that important piece of business right off the bat? Okay, with that, I will turn it over to Deputy Mayor Honda, who is here, and then we'll be presenting to Valerie Segrest, our friends at Muckleshoot Indian Tribe, and Tribe Council Member Louis Ungaro. It's great to see you again. It's been a number of years. So with that, Deputy Mayor.
Yes, so would you all like to stand over where Ms. Carter's pushing? Awesome, thank you. I'm going to read the proclamation and then I'll bring it down to you, and then you can introduce yourselves and say a few words. Native American Heritage Month. Whereas the City of Federal Way is committed to creating an inclusive community that celebrates diversity and ensures all residents have equitable opportunities to lead healthy, peaceful, safe, and sustainable lives. And whereas we acknowledge Federal Way was built upon the ancestral lands and villages of indigenous peoples of this region who have been here since time immemorial. And whereas Washington State is home to 29 federally recognized Native American tribes, including the Muckleshoot Indian Tribe and the Puyallup Tribe of Indians located in Federal Way and the surrounding areas. And whereas Native American tribes have made and continue to make invaluable contributions to the diversity, arts, knowledge, labor, technology, science, philosophy, and economy of the state of Washington. And whereas the historical and cultural contributions, especially those of the Muckleshoot Indian Tribe and the Puyallup Tribe of Indians, have substantially shaped the character of our city. And whereas Native American tribes in Washington State are leaders in environmental protection, from protecting treaty fisheries to strengthening the national effort to protect lands from environmental destruction associated with resource extraction. And whereas Federal Way is committed to strengthening our relationship with the Native American people and Native American tribes, and we support their efforts to improve their people's quality of life. And whereas Native American Heritage Month is celebrated annually to recognize Native American cultures, history, traditions, art, land, and contributions. Now therefore, we the undersigned mayor and city council members of the City of Federal Way do hereby proclaim November 2023 as Native American Heritage Month in Federal Way, and we encourage all residents to recognize the accomplishments and contributions the Native American community has made to our society, and we salute all of the local organizations that work with and support the Native American community. Signed this 8th day of November, 2023.
Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Oh, well, thank you. My name is Louis Ungaro. I'm from the Muckleshoot tribe. I've been a tribal citizen pretty much my whole life. I was born and raised in Auburn on the Muckleshoot Reservation. I went K through 12 in Enumclaw. It is really nice to be here tonight. This is part of decolonization is being recognized and being seen. You know, I was born and raised by parents and grandparents on the Muckleshoot Reservation. I grew up being a commercial fisherman. Most of our ancestral economy was loggers and fishermen. At that time, after Judge Bolt, oral history, stories of my grandma and my great-grandmother telling me stories about Des Moines and the trail system that went from Muckleshoot to Puyallup to Des Moines to harvest shellfish to get foods. A lot of our food sovereignty came from the beaches and from the waterways here in Federal Way and down south, up north to our relatives. All of the special things that were gifted to us from the Creator, and still reaping the benefits of that today. I'm super proud of my ancestors and who we come from. To still hold the strongest land legislation left in the United States, which is the Point Elliott and Medicine Creek treaties that still sustain clean water, food sovereignty, game, fish, all of those things that our treaty tribes work really hard to keep, along with our partners in other municipalities like Federal Way and all of the other ones within our usual and accustomed hunting and fishing areas. I'm greatly honored tonight to be here, but most of all, I have some youth that are going to be addressing you tonight and introducing themselves with our language, and it's just taken me 50 years to see something like this come to fruition, and it's really a special thing that you guys are doing tonight, even in this audience that seems so small, but it's a huge thing to witness. It's historical for myself and for my young children that I have here beside me today, and my mate Valerie Segrest, and all of the hard work that goes behind this. I know that this is not easy work to do. It's heavy work. I know that the things that the mayor and his colleagues go through, and the meetings and all of the things that they have to grapple with to be able to find solutions moving forward, to create those relationships, to I guess you might say, solidify them into the future for future generations and future mayors of Federal Way, future council members, future tribal members from the Muckleshoot tribe, the Puyallup tribe, our relatives up and down the coast. So I thank you for allowing me to speak and for addressing us tonight and for offering the invite. And I'm going to call up our students to introduce themselves as of now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Zoe James. I'm from the Muckleshoot Indian tribe, and my mom's name is Andrew James. My dad's name is Bear James. Zoe James, Seat Stat to all Chad, Buckleshoot, Beta Chad, Andrew James, EFT Bod, Bear James.
I am Layla Kuyafama. My mom and dad name are Alice and Corey. Layla Quavama, seat stack to all chud buckle shoot. But a chud. Alice. Yefti. Corey.
Good job, thank you.
My name is Maylee Martyr, seed stot, Tual Chud, Balkushush, Buddha Chud, April Martyr, Yefti Bod, Mark Martyr. My name is Maylee Martyr. I'm a girl, and my mom is April Martyr, and my dad is Mark Martyr.
My name is Paul Johnson Bethley, and my mother's name is Lana Swanson, and my dad's name is Brian Shopnick. I'm a senior at Muckleshoot Tribal School.
Katana Barseed, Sato Alchud, Buckle Shoes, Butted Ched, June Joseph, Yefti Pod, Celeste Adami.
Sanaya Leonard Dominic, Seed Stott, To All Chud, Bugle Shoes, Butter Ched, Bambi Michelle Leonard, Yefti Bod, Sherman Dominic. My name is Sanaya Leonard Dominic. I am from the Muckleshoot tribe. My mom is Bambi Michelle Leonard. My dad is Sherman Dominic.
Marcus Penn Teedstat, Tual Chud Buckles, Buddha Chud Harriet Bar Yefti, Marcus Penn Sr. I am a Muckleshoot of the tribe of I'm the member of the Muckleshoot tribe and many others. We were taught to say our names in the language fast because some of it's going away here and there. And I want to thank the council and the mayor for letting us be here today. Good evening, and thank you, Mayor Jim Farewell and Federal Way City Council members. We respect Muckleshoot Tribal School students' leadership and our Warriors Path program that encourages us to continue being strong leaders for the future. We raise our hands to you in thanks for this meaningful recognition that the Federal Way is located on our ancestral lands and recognizing the contributes and accomplishments of our tribe's people. Thank you.
Thank you. Well said.
Thank you again, Mayor. Thank you to each and every one of you for inviting us tonight and doing this for our children.
Wait,
and-
Tanya.
Oh, wait, guys.
Sorry to interrupt you, council member. Go ahead, please.
And witnessing a part of history here today for my family and my children. I appreciate it. I know that this is a government-to-government type of deal, that our children need to understand the civics, that a lot of this is getting missed by public education, by local municipalities, by just a lot of American people not really paying attention to what's going on here, and how important it is for the Muckleshoot tribe, that are treaty tribes that still hold the strongest land legislation in the United States, that what's good for an Indian kid is also good for your kids. Clean water, clean air. You know, the thing is our tribe and our people, our usual and accustomed hunting and fishing areas are going to be here in perpetuity. It's no different than the old growth forest that's up there on the mountain. We're not going to dig that up and move it anywhere, and neither are we. City of Federal Way isn't going anywhere. The Muckleshoot tribe isn't going anywhere, and I really appreciate my young people coming here today and taking the courage. It's not easy to get up and public speak. I know it's still not easy for myself. So I raise my hands to you, and I raise my hands to my young people, our future leaders, to Devin Whitaker, and for the work that he does, for the ones who are carrying the language, for the ones who witnessed this today. I think that you all really have a duty now to discuss this at your kitchen tables on Thanksgiving dinner, to talk about these things, and just, you know, like I said before, part of decolonization is seeing us here. That's part of it, and that's a big part of it.
Councilmember, I think our council president wanted to say
Well,
something.
thank you very much. I'm wondering, Mayor, if there isn't some point in time where we couldn't have the Muckleshoot tribe make a presentation with our historical society. You know, we're on television. It gets rebroadcast 3 times a week for 2 weeks, where you could describe, you know, the origins and what you have done in this area, so that I know Fred Oldfield has a lot of paintings of, you know, fishing but I know bits and pieces of your history, but I'd love to hear a real narrative of it. I don't know if that's something we could do in the future.
Absolutely. We'd be very interested in that. And I can get you the people to talk to. I can get you our intergovernmental affairs that we're actually doing campaigns like that are a little bit more savvy than I am when it comes to that stuff.
Love that, Council President.
Okay.
And we've got Louis, we've got a great historical society, and that would be a tremendous opportunity for us to get together. We've got some other things we're working on at the Performing Arts and Events Center. I met Councilmember Ungaro Louis, 8-9 years ago, I think.
At least, yeah.
And also Valerie as well. And we've been working on a Native American food program at the Performing Arts and Events Center, and some other things, and some we could share. There's a couple of things in the works.
Excellent, excellent.
But we'll
So
reach out to the Historical Society tomorrow.
let's connect.
Absolutely.
Should we do a group picture?
Yes.
All right, let's do it right in front of everybody. Let's have everybody come down. And you guys did great. All right.
Shall we come up?
You should like go like a princess. One of you should I think I blink.
All right, thank you very much.
See you up on the mountain.
Take care. Good to see you. We'll be in touch. And Tanya, thank you so much. Tanya Carter, our Economic Development Director, has been working with the tribe, and we got some stuff in the works.
Other half up here. Yay. I'm gonna leave the other half up here.
Yes.
Oh, she's got it. Good shape.
Well, that was a great idea. I've had some kids in that group, and it's good to get that important business done. All right, thanks again. Take care. Thank you. Okay, and now that was 5A on the agenda. Now we're going back to 3, Mayor's Emerging Issues and Report. Okay, thank you very much. We had a very, very surprising and unplanned visit from the former mayor of Rivne and Mayor Tretiak. Oh, thank you very much. Mayor Tretiak from Rivne, our sister city. And you could see here, the mayor and I had an opportunity along some staff. I think we got like 30 minutes notice that he was in the area. He was visiting his brother who lives on the east side. And we've been in contact with him, and actually it was right when the war broke out, or right around that time period. And we've just got such a vibrant and an active Ukrainian population in South King County, especially in Federal Way. Now, I want to point you, we're in the Sister City Conference Room right there, and we had put out the Ukrainian flag for him, and we had an opportunity. But the bottom right picture is really something very special. Mayor Tretiak, who's obviously, he's been mayor since the war broke out. And one of the first things that happened, they've got an airport there, and the airport there was bombed by missiles immediately. They're probably about maybe 100 miles south of Belarus, and probably about maybe 100, 150 miles west of Kyiv. So that gives you a sense of topography, a little bit northeast from where Lviv is. And so they've seen some action, and they, like I said, the TV station, not after the airport was bombed and they were attempting to disable the airport, then they sent missiles to try to destroy the TV station there. That was the Russians, of course. And Mayor Tretiak gave me the patch that he wore during that entire time. It's in my shelf, and at some point I'll put it on a jacket. It was a very, he said he brought it to make sure he gave it to me, because when this broke out and we had the flags in front of City Hall, and we made Rivne our sister city, we were standing right with him, and we continued to do so. And he said he wanted me to have that. So it was a really sweet gesture. So hopefully, when we actually had the opportunity, Tanya Carter, our Economic Development Director, was in the meeting with me when we finally had an opportunity to sit down with him. And there were some constituents here as well that were part of that meeting. And we took some detailed notes, Council, and we're going to be talking about concrete ways that we can help our friends in Rivne. And we'll communicate that when that is more finely tuned. Okay, so that was an unexpected but very nice visit. Now, next page. Okay, we've had a very busy 4 weeks. It's been a very busy fall. We had the Multi-Service Center MSC Helps Luncheon at the Performing Arts and Events Center. That's Doug Baldwin there with me. I'm on the right. I'm just kidding. And everybody knows Doug Baldwin, and he was great. And he's just a very, very special person. I'll tell you something. He got to meet. He did this luncheon, or I think he did something with King County Councilman Pete von Reichbauer a few years ago. And it's been about 4 or 5 years since since I think it was the luncheon that Pete had put on for scholarships for local kids. And when I walked up to him, he goes, "I signed your son's jersey." And it had been so long that the signature has started to fade on the signature on the jersey. And I was so impressed that he remembered me and my son. And he gave a great talk, and it was a packed location. I think they made over $40,000 at that luncheon. It was the pack was absolutely filled to the gills, so that was good. If the pack had gills. Okay, the next picture was we had the 2023 Great Washington Shakeout. Kevin is our emergency manager. Kevin Pelly, Lieutenant Colonel, retired. He's in the picture to the left of me in that picture with the blue vest on. He is absolutely doing great things with emergency preparedness, and this was a simulation about what would occur if a Cascadia type event or a major earthquake hit. The entire building was evacuated, and it's something that was statewide at a particular time. And he's really getting us ready in the unfortunate event that something occurs in our community. And I've never seen this level of organization. We are so lucky to have Colonel Pelly. And the great thing about it is I believe he's a 1992 Federal Way High School Eagle graduate, University of Washington, ROTC. And his first assignment after he got out of the Army was to enlist with the city of Federal Way, so to speak, and become our new emergency manager, and he's just done a phenomenal job. And we've actually had a meeting many meetings with local governments as well, and preparing for really getting everything ready in case anything bad happens or tragedies happen in our community. Tricks and Treats Fun Fest at the Federal Way Community Center. That was a lot of fun, and I want to thank John Hutton, your amazing staff, and Leaf and team over at the Community Center, which is, if anybody hasn't seen the new slide and the pool and everything going over there, it's just absolutely beautiful. And then we had the Federal Way Farmers Market season finale. And despite their best efforts, they did not get me out on the dance floor to do the Thriller thing. There's certain things I've just, friends don't let mayors dance, is what I said. But it was great to see that, and it was great to see our friend Rose and Carla and Dave and the entire crew and the community members. So let's see here. Let's see. Next, we've got what's coming up. Every year we do something very special. As you know, when it snows or it gets really icy, it gets dangerous in certain areas in our community. And we need to make sure, and we always do, that our roads are safe, that people can come and go to their work, to their school. It's absolutely foundational. And we have got such a tremendous team in Public Works and Parks, and they literally go out for 12-hour shifts. In fact, just recently, we had over at the community center parking lot, everybody, they set up piles of bark, and they practice training some new folks or just making sure that the equipment's all working. And so this is Paint the Plow, where the young people at the Boys and Girls Club at the Ron Sandwith EX Teen Center and Federal Way's 8th Avenue location, they paint, so you've got the younger people and then the teens, they paint the plows. So when you see the snow hit and the crews are out, look to see if you could see those plows. And that was, I believe that's me and the council president and Councilmember Walsh at one of them, and the younger folks to the right. So those are really fun to watch. So that is this Thursday. That's tomorrow at the Boys and Girls Club locations. We've got Family Movie Night, Knutson Family Theater, on November 10th at 5:30 p.m. They're presenting the DC League of Super Pets, and that's free with free popcorn. Okay, and I think that is my presentation. Thank you, Bill. Great slideshow. Okay, and that completes my report. Now we've got the most important part of the evening, which is public comment. I've got some pink sheets here, and we've got some people I think that are going to be testifying remotely. I want to call out a few names, and if you could sort of queue up toward the back. So the first is we've got Alexander Milston, then John Sitkin, Melissa Hamilton, Lana Bostic, Jasmine Lopez, Fred Dubon, Karen Brigado, Janine Barber, Susan Strong, and Mary Ellis. That's what I've got for folks here. So with that, Alexander, the floor is yours.
Hello, I'm Alex, and I'm a resident of Federal Way. One of the largest issues that most local governments have is, including this one, is apathy and a lack of citizens participating in the local political process. I mean, even this meeting of a city of 100,000, audience is a bit small. And it was even mentioned earlier in the meeting how, unfortunately, not as many people participate as would be ideal. And this isn't just this city, but many cities. But there are some things that can be done that could improve it, at least here, and for the state council meetings. Some small things that can definitely do a start. One, especially as meetings get longer, is having recesses later on in the meetings, so that way it gives people time to rest for a bit, especially after hearing a bunch of information, so that way they can process it. Another thing maybe could be Q&As near the end of the meeting for at least big topics, which, if anything, can at least keep audience members engaged and encourage people to come again other times to later meetings. And for people that have kids, maybe having a daycare at City Hall, at least for city council meetings. So that way, if someone has kids, they can still come without having to worry about a babysitter or anything like that. And lastly, this is probably more for school board, but I feel like I should probably tell you guys it too. Encourage students to come. Teach about how students can get involved in schools, and maybe even give extra credit if students will come to meetings or anything with local government. This has a lot of benefits for the students, a lot of benefits, since they learn a lot of things they can't really learn in school that easily. Everything from budgets to communication and everything in between is learned by coming to these meetings and engaging in them. And it benefits society generally, including our community, since it brings new ideas to the table and also means that we'll have a population that is engaged, which is great for our community. Thank you.
Thanks, Alex. All right, John Sitkin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. John Sitkin, I'm counsel for Winco Foods, and I'll be brief. We support the staff's recommendation. We'd like to thank the staff and the city attorney's office, very professional and engaging, and worked hard with us to bring this to you for your review. We have a positive hearing examiner's recommendation, no real opposition at the hearing. Lawyer, I'll keep it short, but we'd like to ask your support and approval. Thank you. Myself and the architect are here if you have questions when this item comes up on your agenda.
Great. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Melissa Hamilton.
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, Council President, Council Community. My name is Melissa Hamilton, and I'm a resident of Federal Way. Perhaps you've heard Poverty Bay Cafe was the victim of a smash and grab burglary. The criminals caused $30,000 in damage. Poverty Bay Cafe funds and supports Fusion. Fusion helps our most vulnerable community members. The current non-pursuit legislation and lack of prosecution has hurt our marginalized and low-income communities the most. Let me explain. My family has been listening to the advice given by our law enforcement, and here are some things that we have done to prevent becoming victims in this state of a rampant crime. We've purchased and installed security cameras, $676. Purchased and installed plates for our catalytic converters on all vehicles, $1,783. Vehicle security and installation, $762. Home invasion defense, $598. The club for my son's Hyundai, $50. We've also upgraded to full coverage insurance for all vehicles, just in case they are stolen. Costs associated with being crime victims this year are as follows. Vehicle window replacement, times 2, $655. Personal property stolen, $1,500. Cat converter repair after being sawed off at work, $500 deductible for that. Insurance deductible after being hit by a drunk driver who fled, $500. And we actually get $499 a month, and that's $4.99 a month in restitution payments from the court. So in 10 years, we will have recouped that cost. The current laws have created this atmosphere of rampant crime, and even though we've all been affected, the people hurt the most are our marginalized communities, low-income communities, our young families, and our young people. Why? Because crime and crime prevention is a financial burden. It works, but it's a burden. The grand total for crime and crime prevention measures we've taken have cost our family over $7,000 in a 21-month time span. Some of our leaders will blame the rise in crime on gangs, social media, rap music, video games. We've heard that all before, but there's one variable that's glaringly obvious. We need to fix the pursuit laws. Criminals are emboldened, they jump into a stolen vehicle, and they are free to terrorize our community, committing all other types of crimes in it, including violent crimes with zero consequences. So it's not just about a stolen vehicle, because bad behavior here correlates to bad behavior there. Please put out an invitation to our state reps to come to these city council meetings and encourage them to stay for the citizen comment time so that they can hear what their constituents are dealing with due to their decisions in Olympia. Citizen comment is in fact the most important part of our meetings, as our mayor so rightfully says each and every time. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. And Melissa, I hope you stay for the, we've got the section that we're going to be talking about our legislative agenda where we talk about those very issues. So, okay, very good. Is Lana Bostic here? Okay. Jasmine Lopez.
Hola, buenas noches.
Hi, good evening.
Mi nombre es Yasmín López
My name is Jasmine Lopez,
y felicidades por estar aquí, estar parte del concilio.
I want to congratulate you all for being here as members of the council.
Tengo una pregunta y a la misma vez comentario.
I have a question, but I also have a comment.
Es acerca de la renta que ha subido en este último año y los propietarios están subiendo lo que ellos quieren.
And it has to do with the raise in rents that has occurred over this last year and the raises that the property owners are implementing seemingly at their whim.
Por ejemplo, en mis edificios han evacuado a varias personas, han salido porque no pueden pagar $200 o $300 que les han aumentado.
For example, in my building, several families have had to leave. They're unable to complete the $200 or $300 extra that their rent is now.
Y también, también cuando alguien se atrasa un poco, les cobran $100 o más.
And also, if someone gets behind in the rent payment, they charge you an extra 100 or more on top of it.
He escuchado que otras ciudades han implementado algún tipo de
I've heard other cities
de una protección razonable para los inquilinos.
have implemented reasonable protections for tenants.
Me gustaría saber si ustedes están considerando algo así también.
And I would like to ask you all if you all are considering something of that nature as well.
Y pues les agradezco por escuchar esta noche.
And I thank you so much for listening to my comment.
Jasmine, thank you very much. And I will have Bill Vadino from my office contact you right now, and we will reach out with some answers to your questions.
Gracias.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Okay. All right. Fred Dubon.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Madam President, members of the council. My name is Fred Dubon. I'm a resident of Federal Way. I'm also a member of Casa Latina, an organization that helps Latino immigrants with job opportunities. And Casa Latina is a member of a coalition for rent and stability in King County. First of all, I want to congratulate you on your reelection. I can proudly say that in my home, you all had our votes, so thank you. And in 2013, my wife and I moved to Federal Way to start a family. We found a one-bedroom apartment in 288th and Military for $850 a month for rent. Unfortunately, the year later, 30 days before our lease was up, we received a notice that the rent would be increasing to $1,100, while no updates were made to the unit, to the apartment. The next year, 30 days before our lease was up, we received a notice that the rent would increase to $1,600. That was a $500 increase, while my wife and I's salary had a combined increase of $75 per month. That prompted a tough conversation that we had in our family. We did not have enough time or money to move to a new place, so we decided to stay one more year. The next year, we found a nicer place for $1,700 rent per month by the Transit Center. While our unit was newly remodeled, the rest of the complex was not remodeled yet. And unfortunately, same thing happened every year, 30 days before our lease was up, we would receive a notice of rent increase. Sometimes it would be $100, sometimes it would be $150. Until 2020, when our complex was bought by the county. And they did not increase the rent. This year was the first year that rent increased $25, while they have made so many improvements to the complex. And finally, this year was the first year that my kids were able to use the outdoor pool because it was finally remodeled. So it's tough for me to understand how one owner could have such a high increases on rent while no improvements are made to the property, while the other owner increases no rent and improves the property tremendously. I am very lucky to be where I am, but I know not everybody can be there, and not everybody has the same opportunity. That's why I'm here tonight asking you for two very simple, common sense tenants' rights. One would be a 180-day rent increase notice so that people, families can make a decision of whether they can stay or leave. It would also help landlords. It would also help landlords as they would know when tenants are moving out and they can plan. The other one would be a $10 cap on any late fees. We know that a lot of communities pay rent either by check or cash or money order, and sometimes it's tough to do it on the time. Last night, you all have my family support. Tonight, I ask for yours. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Karen Brugado. And team. Oh, actually, I see we've got group comment for 5 minutes. So,
Hello, Mayor Farrell, Council President Kochmeyer, Deputy Mayor Honda, and all of the wonderful city council members that are up there. I am Karen Brigado. I am an over 30-year resident of Federal Way, and I speak on behalf of the Federal Way Arts Commission, and the commission is all standing behind me. We thank you for the budgetary look-back funds that brought a one-time resource to the Arts Commission. Thank you. It paid for a larger professional lighting to our Red Wall Gallery at the PAEC, new traffic graphic boxes, a professional arts display walls and lighting for our second annual Explosion Arts Festival that's coming up in 2024. It increases stipends for the resident artists. This funding is the first increase in our budget ever. We were incorporated about 30 years ago and never had an increase before until last year, and we thank you for that. And of course, though, we need to spend this money. We got it months ago. We need to spend it by the end of the year because at the end of the year, it is over. So that means January 2024, we're still back to our original budget of $50,000 that we have been at for almost 30 years. So we need a plan, and I have got a plan. We are needing to double the amount of contracts for services so our performing artists can thrive in this city and inspire others to come move here and perform as well. That costs $85,000 a year. We need to utilize the performance locations on their downtimes to provide free practices for the resident artists. That's about $50,000. We need to implement the Bloomberg study, asphalt art, which I have emailed to each one of you, which increases the traffic graphic boxes. It paints the crosswalks that serve to calm traffic. And we could hire Federal Way artists to paint outdoor murals on walls, on staircases, and create a destination point. That's about $40,000 a year. We could provide for a 3-month Artist in Residence program, giving Federal Way artists free room and board at Dumas Space Center so they can create artwork. That's $50,000 a year. And we must sustain the Arts Festival during the summer. That is our signature event, and that's about $40,000 a year. And all these programs generate a path forward. They are programs that are happening right now in other cities right next to us. So in total, these programs equal $265,000 a year. Our request is $2.50 per capita from the general fund to go to the Arts Commission. This equals about $250,000 a year. It's in keeping with our peer cities. Thank you, Mr. Groom, for investing our city funds and netting, I think, around $3 million. So this ask is entirely possible. So we ask you today, please, let artistic expression live and thrive and survive in Federal Way. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and I see Janine Barber.
Good evening, Mayor Farrell, Deputy Mayor Honda, Council President Koshmar, and council members. My name is Janine Barber. I have been a resident of Federal Way for more than 15 years. I am a retired information technology professional and a graduate of the University of Iowa, where I earned an MBA. Tonight, I am requesting help as an individual, asking the Parks Department and the Information Technology Department to work together to clarify the Arts Commission budget. The goal would be a line item. I hope this is something that could merit follow-through and also an opportunity to work with whatever groups are necessary. This is, I'm speaking on behalf of myself as an individual, although as there are others who understand what I'm saying. We did have a wonderful presentation by a former employee, Parks Board employee, who has since moved on to Puyallup, where he is no longer a part of the City of Federal Way, and he would give us information about budget from several different documents. My goal, again, is to ask for a line item for the Arts Commission. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, Susan Strong. Thank you all for being there. Thank you. Susan Strong.
Mayor Farrell, Deputy Mayor Honda, Council President Kochmar, council members. I'm Susan Strong, and I live in Federal Way. I moved here in 1975. I would just like to take an opportunity to thank the Federal Way Police Department for all that they do to try to keep Federal Way a safe and pleasant place to live. There has been a lot of car theft taking place. On October 19th, officers responded to several purse-snatching robberies in the area. On the 28th, officers arrested 2 juveniles who fled in a stolen car that was suspected of being involved in a string of purse-snatching cases. Perpetrators are crashing into their vehicles into businesses, breaking out glass and stealing what they can. Store theft is so common that some businesses are leaving the area. I've noticed that the drivers in our area are not at all abiding by the rules. Speed limit signs are taken as a suggestion. Stop signs are sometimes ignored. Continuing through intersections after a light has turned red for the driver is very common. If I'm stopped at an intersection when the light turns green for me, I always wait for drivers who might be coming through the intersection to crash into me. The homeless situation in Federal Way has taken a huge toll on our city. The police officers can't do much about those who are homeless and mentally ill. The police officers can't do much about the homeless who are drug addicted. And now this comment ties in with the lady in the back row that I've never met, but looked like we worked on this together. The legislators in Olympia don't care much about changing laws that could help our police officers. In spite of little support from the state, our Federal Way Police Department is doing the best they can with what they have to work with. Thank you very much for serving and protecting the citizens of our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Ellis.
Good evening, Mayor Farrell and council members. I'm here on a light note, and I'm with Historical Society of Federal Way. Thank you, I did introduce myself, and we are working hard to meet your expectations and live up to what we have to. We want to thank Parks for the recent meeting on Brook Lake. That's really an exciting proposition coming up. And for the YMCA for the walk of Camp Kilworth on a very rainy day. Anybody that hasn't been there, I've told them we want an open house, so we'll watch for it. But what I'm really here for is to let you know I was here last time to invite you to our open house. We always have a holiday open house, but I want to let you know that we've postponed it to December 16th. And the reason we've done that is each year, well, 2 years ago, we had the 40s for Christmas and representing the history of the 40s, and then we did the 50s last year. This year is the 60s, and as you dig into the 60s that everybody remembers, it was a turbulent time. So we're having some fun going beyond just Christmas and remembering that there were a lot of things that started in the 60s that we're still talking about. So I do invite everybody in the room and all the council members to come on December 16th between 1 and 3 o'clock and check out our Heritage Center at the Steel Lake Annex Park. And please come over and see what we're doing. We are working hard with Parks to be more open and interactive. And any suggestions, ideas, or anything you want to share, please bring it to us, because we're wide open to it.
Thank you, Mary. And we're going to be in touch about maybe a presentation, a combined presentation with Historical Society and the Muckleshoot Tribe.
I think that, yeah, I did talk with them just a bit. That would be really exciting. They were one of the groups we wanted to reach out to, because it isn't just about us. We have room to do some presentations, some learning opportunities, and for all ages, invite people over and open our doors to that. So we do thank Parks and the City Council for continuing to work with us.
Very
Thanks.
good. It's a great idea, Council President. Thank you. Okay, Anna Patrick. And then we've got some remote comments.
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, Council President, and Council. I'd like to address something that's coming up with King County. They are in the process of their final plans for closing the jails, and they call it care and closure now. Their goal is to reward people or incentivize youth who commit crimes to stay in a comfortable room rather than in a cell that they are required to stay in. That's one of the things that I'm reading about. The other thing that's very concerning with the legislative agenda coming up is that they have to change the state laws before they can close the jail officially, because some of the laws require that they actually do their job and hold criminals accountable right now. And so they want to change the laws and have that be something, it will actually affect the entire state. So some cities aren't quite prepared or some counties aren't quite prepared as our county has been working to be prepared as far as all the diversion programs and all of that. So for example, right now, one of the laws that they want to change is bringing a firearm to school. So, they want to change the laws pertaining to that. So I would ask that we are remaining vigilant of what's coming down the pike. The pursuit laws have been devastating to our state and particularly to our city. Maintenance of juvenile detention facilities as mandatory functions of several counties, requirement of counties with more than 50,000 inhabitants to provide a detention room or house of detention, probable cause of an offer to arrest without a warrant, a person they believe has committed or is committing a felony, allows juvenile housed in a crisis residential center to be placed in detention for a maximum of 48 hours. These are some of the laws that they're looking at changing so that they don't have to actually detain youth anymore, or at least require it. So please be vigilant of that. And I want to thank you for adding the additional expense to our budget for jails. And hope that is something that everybody will agree with. And also the peer support is good. That's important. So I guess that's all I want to say. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Anna. Yeah, we've got a presentation for our proposed legislative asks today, and then the completed one will be in 2 weeks. But two people have mentioned police car pursuits and stolen cars. Washington State is 4th in the nation in raw numbers for car theft, behind Texas, California, and New York, I believe. And we're number 1 per capita. And the number of car thefts in the Federal Way has increased 79% since these numbers. We'll put these up on the board, but it's astoundingly large numbers that have occurred. So anyway, we're with you. We'll put that up there. And what we're hearing from folks in the legislature is there's, quote, no appetite or they're not really open to readdressing the pursuit law because they did fix a little portion, some portions of it with reasonable suspicion and also with regard to violent crime. And they actually added sexual crimes, which I was a prosecutor for 19 years. There was probably, I don't ever remember in 19 years we ever pursued a sex offender. It's just they just threw that in there because it sounded good. So it's astounding what has occurred in our state. We're going to address it. We're not going to wait for another time, and we're going to keep raising that up. I do want to let you know, though, that there are quite a number. I think almost every one of the Pierce County cities has signed on to a letter on this issue, probably with the exception of Tacoma, and so there'll probably be an effort to link up. Councilmember?
I'll just make a comment. Washington, D.C. is the first city in the U.S. to offer GPS to their citizens to track their cars. It came out 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's astounding. Okay, well, we've got more public comment other than mine, so let's thank you for your patience, everybody. All right, Gian Mitchell.
All right, can y'all hear me okay?
We can, yes.
Okay, wonderful. So my name is Gian Mitchell. I'm a member of the Federal Way Rent Stabilization Committee, and I'm a tenant living in Seattle. Because I live in Seattle, I have the protections of 180 days notice of any rent increase and a $10 monthly cap on late fees. Tenants in Federal Way lack these protections, and I urge the City Council to remedy that. Today, I'll speak to the specific impact 180 days notice of a rent increase has had on my community and I. On a personal level, 180 days of notice of any rent increase has given me security. I know I can count on advance notice if I have to move due to a rent increase. I work full-time, frequently overtime, and having 180 days notice of rent increase means I have the ability and time to look for housing that actually meets my needs if I need to move due to a rent increase. I've had to find a place to live in a much shorter time frame before. Not only was it profoundly stressful to worry if I'd be homeless, it also put me at a competitive disadvantage when searching for housing. I had to go with the first housing that accepted me, and I had even less power to negotiate with the landlord before signing the lease than I would normally. That led to me accepting housing that didn't meet all my needs, and I had to take what I could get because it was that or be homeless. On a community level, the Census Bureau runs a household pulse survey that includes some interesting data for the Seattle, Tacoma, Bellevue metro area. This area includes, but is not limited to, the city of Federal Way. According to week 63 of the pulse survey, which was data collected from October 18th to October 30th of this year, 314,951 respondents, or about 10% of respondents, felt pressure to move in the last 6 months due to a rent increase. For those who live in Seattle city limits like myself, those folks at least had the legal right to reasonable advance notice of the rent increase. For those outside of Seattle without additional local protections, they had only basic level state protections of 60 days of notice to move out of their home and find new housing. 180 days of notice gives tenants the security to plan for the future. If the rent increase is affordable, it gives a tenant time to adjust their budget accordingly. If the rent increase is unaffordable, it gives a tenant time to find alternative housing that meets their needs. Having this peace of mind and sense of security is something that every person should have. It shouldn't be exclusive to people who can afford a fixed rate mortgage when we all need a safe, stable, and affordable place to call home. That's why I urge the City Council to grant tenants 180 days notice of any rent increases and also support capping late fees at no more than $10 a month. Thank you for listening. I yield any remaining time.
All right, thank you. Susan Benhage.
Good evening, and thank you, everybody, for being present. My name is Susan Benhage, and I am a health equity navigator at El Centro de la Raza. As you know, we are located in Federal Way. I was also a longtime resident of Federal Way for 20 years, so it does sadden me to hear about all the conditions with the crime rates and such. Hopefully, something will happen with that. What I'm here for tonight is also requesting tenant rights. As far as giving them more time to be able to find housing. As a navigator, I spend most of my time trying to find people housing. I currently have 2 homeless families that came from Federal Way who were removed from their unit because they were not able to come up with enough money to pay for their back rent, and especially because of the fines. So that is also, even at the times that they are able to find the money to buy, they borrow it, they find the money to come up with the rent, and then they still have to pay for the enormous amount of fines that they are put on them. So in this time of such a high number of people who are homeless, many of these families have no recourse. There are no shelters available. Most of the shelters are at capacity. And I know my little family at this point right now are probably sleeping in the car behind the Safeway. So hopefully something will change for the tenants' rights in Federal Way, capping out the late charges, giving them more time to be able to find housing. Most of my families are low income. Most aren't even eligible for low income housing because of their documentation. So there's a lot of things that these community members of Federal Way are going through. So I'm hoping that the city carries on this notion to put changes to the tenant rights organizations. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Celeste Berry-Smith. Celeste? Celeste, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
We can, yes.
Okay, thank you. Hello, council members. My name is Celestine Berry-Smith, and I'm a resident of Federal Way. I am testifying today as the Tenant Service Program Manager at Solid Ground, a multi-service organization that supports people living on low incomes across King County. We are a member of the Federal Way Rent Stabilization Committee, and we are here tonight asking the council to pass tenant protections that will give tenants advance notice of when their rent increases, and that would prevent exorbitant late fees when tenants need to make late payments. As a direct service provider that supports over 1,100 renters at risk of eviction every year, Solid Ground's Tenant Services Program sees the direct impacts of the rent crisis on families. Our program helps people maintain stable housing by educating tenants on their rights and responsibilities as tenants and those of the landlord. Through our Rent Smart webinars and our voice message line in English and Spanish, we provide education, counseling, and resource connection to renters in Federal Way and across the county. From our work, I'd like to share a couple of tenant stories from the council that highlight the need for stronger tenant protections. First of all, we recently had a call to the voice message line from a tenant living in Federal Way who was just over 10 days behind on rent that he was already struggling to pay due to the high cost of living in the area and because of missing a week of work due to COVID-19. He was then charged an additional $75 late fee on top of rent due that month. Then we had a Spanish-speaking family of 4 in Federal Way who received a rent increase that did not give them enough time to revise their household budget and save toward the rent increase. This increase caused the family to fall behind on rent and accumulate late fees over several months. The tenant attempted to pay partial rent, but the landlord would not accept the partial amount or a payment plan and instead issued pay or vacate notices. The tenants want to move but cannot afford to save for a new place and continue to pay the current landlord. Advance notice would have allowed this tenant to save for the upcoming rent increase. Imposing excessive punitive late fees on tenants who are already struggling to pay their rent makes it even harder for people to keep their current housing or secure future housing. All of this can push people one step closer to homelessness. These are just two examples among the vast number we hear every year. We need the City Council to pass tenant protections that will help stabilize tenants in Federal Way and keep people in their housing. Please pass policies that would require 6 months of advance notice to tenants for rent increases and limit late fees to $10 a month. Thank you for hearing our comments today, and we look forward to working with you all on this issue.
Thank you. Fanika Zhang.
Good evening, Mayor and Deputy Mayor and council members. My name is Finika Zhang, and I'm joining other public commenters tonight from the Federal Way Rent Stabilization Coalition. And tonight I'm commenting as the Community Policy Specialist at Solid Ground, which is an organization that supports people across King County with services like housing and homelessness prevention and public benefits access. You actually just heard from my colleague about one of our programs, Tenant Services, which works directly with renters at risk of eviction. And based on the challenges that we've heard directly from renters that access our services, we are here tonight to highlight the need for tenant protection policies in Federal Way. Like many other South King County cities, Federal Way is experiencing a housing affordability and rent crisis. According to CoStar data, the average rent for a one-bedroom apartment in Federal Way rose by 106% over the past 10 years. And this is actually the highest percentage change for any city in King County. Another study in 2021 shows that residents living in Federal Way are among the highest risk of losing their housing when compared to other cities in South King County. So when it comes to policies that help renters keep their housing, Federal Way is behind the curve compared to other South King County cities. For example, the city of Auburn has passed tenant protections that require longer advance notice for rent increases and that limit late fees to $10 a month. And cities like Burien, SeaTac, and Tacoma have also passed similar protections. So like you've heard from other folks who have given comment, we're asking the council to consider 2 tenant protections requiring 180 days of advance notice for rent increases and limiting late fees to $10 a month. And Celestine just shared a story from a tenant, but I'll add just another one for you all to really contextualize what folks are experiencing in the city. Our program recently served a Spanish-speaking family where both parents lost their jobs, one parent from a work-related injury. In that time, the household fell behind on rent, and the landlord charged $120 per day for late fees. The family made attempts to pay the rent and the late fees, but as you can imagine, $120 per day creates a quicksand situation of quickly accumulating debt, and the family was not able to pay off in a reasonable time. So without regulating late fees, there's little to stop runaway late fee charges. And a policy that limits late fees doesn't prevent landlords from charging late fees, it just protects renters against excessive charges. So we hope the council will take this issue seriously, and we really look forward to working with you all to help stabilize renters in Federal Way. And thanks so much for hearing our comments today.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, that's the last pink sheet I have. All right, we've got one more?
Nope, I don't have anybody else.
Okay, great. All right, thank you. Like I said, and it was repeated as well, this is the most important thing we do, to hear from our the folks that live in the area, live here in Federal Way, and we appreciate your comments. Okay, now we're moving on to item 6, Council Committee and Regional Committee reports. First, we'll start off with the Parks, Recreation, and Human Services Public Safety Committee. That is Councilmember Walsh.
We will be meeting for our next committee meeting a week from last night, next Tuesday evening, and some exciting things on the agenda.
Very good, thank you. Land Use and Transportation, Councilmember Dovey.
Yeah, thank you. We had our land use meeting last night, which means our next one is going to be the first Monday in December. We had some presentations on some code amendments and some changes, which we're finishing up the project we started a year ago with community development to make it more accessible for developers to develop and landowners to be more secure with their land and property owners to be more happy with possibilities of what they can do with it. So stay tuned for the next one in December on the first Monday of the month, because I'm sure, in fact, I know Keith will be bringing us more things to modify. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. With regard to FEDREC, we've got our chairman out today that's excused. We've got a Lodging Tax Advisory Committee, Councilmember Sefa Dawson.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. We did not meet today. Our next, and I have nothing to report. Our next meeting is going to be Wednesday, the 13th at 10 a.m. Thank you so much.
Very good, thank you, Councilmember. The Deputy Mayor and Regional Committees report, Deputy Mayor Honda.
Thank you. I have a note from the Senior Commission. We had a meeting today, and they would like me to remind everyone that the third Senior Commission Connection meeting will be held at the Federal Way Community Center Wednesday, November 15th from 10 to 1. They are partnering with seniors to share resources, education, programs, and much more. The Arts Commission will be their guest speaker, and they will be presenting a slideshow of the public art in Federal Way. Thank you, Arts Commission. Yep, you still here? The presentation begins at 12, and that's after the 11 a.m. meet and greet. Please come and meet the Senior Advisory Commission and the Arts Commissioners. Have coffee and snacks, as well as engaging conversation with your senior neighbors. That's from the Senior Commission. I would like to remind Council that applications are due to AWC and SCA by November 13th, which is Monday, if you want to serve or apply for committees and boards. And on Saturday, December 9th, there's an elected officials essentials workshop. It's offered by AWC. It's online or at 9 locations around the state. I think Olympia is probably our closest location. I serve on the Education and Training Committee for AWC, and we encourage all newly re-elected and new council members to attend. This does satisfy the Open Government Trainings Act that we are required to take. I think it's every 4 years. So you do need to sign up for it, and I'm going to sign up for the online location, because then I can stay at home, not have to travel to Olympia. And Veterans Day is, of course, this weekend, and I'd like to thank all the veterans and their families and remind those here in Federal Way that we do have a Veterans Memorial. It's over by the Performing Arts and Events Center at the top of the stairs, and I encourage you to go take a look at that if you haven't seen it. So thank you, and I know Council McDaniel's a veteran up here, and any other veterans, thank you for your service, and thank you to the families of those who served. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Council President Kochmar.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm wondering, are we going to be able to have any money available, which we've done in the past, to give $25,000 to the food bank for the holidays? I'm wondering if there's any money in the budget anywhere, in your budget.
We'll find $25,000 for the.
Good. Is that something we can do before Thanksgiving, or?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that would be a good thing to do.
We'll find it.
Okay.
Yeah. And thank you for reminding me. It's
you.
one of the first things I did when I became mayor.
Yeah.
Steve, let's talk about, actually, I've got authority, let me see, I've got authority up to 19,000. 25, actually, I would need special council authorization.
Well, anything that's,
Well, 1 second.
To the senior food bank too, to both of them?
why not? I mean, I'm good.
Where's Ryan?
Split it.
What's that? Okay, let's park this for a few minutes, but for the multi-service center food bank, which is a lifeline in this community.
Yeah, thank you. Because they can triple that with their buying power.
Right.
And so, yeah.
And the senior food bank.
And the senior food bank, yeah.
So you're talking 50?
Well, as much as we could donate.
Yeah.
Or split it between.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Steve?
I think we may have to look to see what we have already in the budget, because year over year, it may be already something we're doing, but I don't know off the top of my head.
If we gave you a little while, could you, is there any way you could go back to your office and figure it out?
By the time we get to our budget amendment,
Yeah, or have Chase. I think the key thing right now is the 25 for the, could you check to see right now what we've given for them and what the status is there?
I think we can do that.
Very good. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you. That really is, I think, when anybody reaches out to me in the community, we've had folks, businesses come to the community, whether it's new businesses or organizations, and they say, I want to give to an organization in our community, where do I give? Without hesitation, I always say the food bank, that it's a lifeline for people. All right, let's, Council President, did you have anything else? All right, thank you. Okay, consent agenda. These items have gone through committee and can be passed all at once, or an item could be pulled for separate consideration. Item A, minutes for the October 17th regular and special meeting minutes, or 2023. Item B, monthly financial report for September 2023. C, AP vouchers 9/16/23 through 10/15/23. Payroll vouchers 9/1/23 through 9/30/23. D, 2024 Highline College Small Business Development Center Interagency Agreement. Council, are there any items that you would want pulled for separate consideration? All right. Council President Kochmar.
I move approval of the consent agenda items A through D.
Second.
It's been a motion, a second, for approval of items A through D. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Matter passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, item 8, public hearing, item A, ordinance for the 2023-24 biennial budget mid-year amendment. I'll now open the public hearing. We'll have a staff report from Steve Groom, Finance Director.
Thank you, Mayor. Because we have a biennial budget, one of the requirements is that we make sure that we do a budget amendment between September 1st and December 31st, and this fulfills that requirement. This particular budget amendment, we've done 2 of them earlier in the year. This one's different. This one, we are not green-lighting anything new. We are doing some must-dos. There is nothing coming off of the waiting list for this budget amendment. Also, in the previous 2 budget amendments, we have only looked at the revenue that we have actually received. On this budget amendment, we've had to go and forecast where we think the revenue is going to be by year end, by December 31st. So there's a little bit of, well, we'll just call it forecasting, and we're trying to be reasonable, optimistic, and yet making sure that we have a budget that's doable. We don't want to have any of our funds end up the year with a negative balance, and I think we've done that. In a nutshell, forecasting our revenue through the year end, we have an additional budget favorable variance of 2.8 million, which sounds like quite a bit. However, against that, we are proposing to add 2.773, which is almost the same amount. Now, the way that we did this is the same as the way that we always do. Here we've got our top 5 most material revenues. The first 2 columns is at the time we were doing our forecasting. I think this was our September close. You can see how much we actually had year-to-date and what the year-to-date budget was. However, I'm focused on what we think the year-end estimate is. And when we compared that to what we have in the existing year-end budget, that gives us a variance. However, we have to subtract out what we've already used in the previous 2 budget amendments. So that's how we came up with the 2.8 million in revenue. The expenses that we want to make sure that we have covered, the jail fund, the police worked really well with us. They looked line by line. We get invoices from different months from each of the jails that we use, and I really appreciated the level of cooperation from jail. They don't think from the police command staff. They said they don't think that they're going to spend that much, but they think they can stay within that. And in finance, we want to make sure that we do have enough to cover it. So that's why we've got an even round number like that. In community development, they have had higher than budgeted permits and fees, but they've also had some outsourced plan review. That makes a lot of sense, because just because you have a high volume this month or that month doesn't mean that we can expand staff and keep it a higher level on permanently. We have an additional municipal court. That's the peer recovery grant. The unemployment fund has just seen a higher than budgeted amount of claims. Lake Haven, we're able to absorb a cost increase. The Community Development Code Compliance position, that's just me catching up with a position that you all approved back in August. And the next 4 or 5 items, we are just bumping up some of the other funds to make sure that they don't end up negative. In debt service, for example, we budgeted the exact amount of the principal and interest payments. We missed some administrative fees, so we're just going to make sure that that fund stays positive. Same thing with CDBG. The clerk's office is doing a revised code, the city's municipal code, putting it through a legal review. That's a compliance item. And then there's an adjustment to a city prosecutor position. That puts us within 31,000 of the amount of revenue that we're forecasting. That makes me a little bit nervous. However, this is just the way that we make sure that we are making sure that we're finishing the year with a budget we believe that we can attain and we can stay within. This all was the general fund. When we look at other funds, there is you'll see in your packet, there's an $8 million item. It's just a balance sheet transfer. We have to make sure that we get it into the budget, though, so that we can do the purchases of the property that we need for the maintenance and operation shop. I'll have one more slide on that. In the other funds, we have, of course, the $1.8 million coming into the jail cost fund. We've got the 2024 insurance premiums are going up. We're going to absorb that right now. I think that's a really smart move to do in advance. Of course, we all know that we've been seeing higher gasoline prices. This is both from the Parks and Public Works fleet plus police cars. Doesn't seem reasonable to be able to ask them to reduce their miles. It's just not discretionary. And then we're seeing higher claims than our health insurance fund, so we can absorb that. Recently, we talked about our real estate excise tax revenue being reduced, so we're going to bring that down in the budget. We already talked about how Public Works is extending the timing of 5 of their projects to make sure that we stay within budget there. The Performing Arts Center had offsetting increases in revenue and expenses. And then Public Works got a pedestrian crossing grant. On the maintenance facility, that $8 million item deserves just a little bit more explanation. This is a hearing. I want to make sure that we've given a reasonable explanation to citizens. This is a budget amendment. So the budget part of the process is we need to make sure that we get it into the budget so that we can disperse the checks. That way the purchase of land can proceed. The debt process, that will be a separate item. That's where we need to bring a resolution to reimburse ourselves. And then in the spring of next year, we will be coming to you to discuss debt issuance. We'll be able to extinguish the interfund loan from the proceeds of that. And then where does the money ultimately come from? The maintenance shop will be paid for by a combination of SWIM, real estate excise tax, and general fund, and that'll allow us to pay it off over 25 years. So here's my little checklist on the budget amendment. We brought a fairly detailed discussion to FedRec. Today is the first hearing. We'll be introducing the ordinance later in the budget, and this presentation will suffice for that, I trust. And then at the next city council meeting is when the ordinance can be enacted, and then the department budgets can all be updated. So that's my introduction to the hearing. If there's any questions, happy to do that.
Council, any questions at this point? All right, thank you, Steve. All right, is there any public comment on this?
No, Mayor, I don't have anyone signed up.
All right, well, let's have Alexander, or Alex, come on up, and then we'll have you fill out a separate sheet for the public comment that we've got there. And I think we've got Karen Brigado as well.
Hello, I'm Alex Milston, and I'm a resident of Federal Way. I just had a question about where you could find the budget online, where it can be found. Because I remember when searching for it, I had difficulties finding it.
Thank you. Thank you for asking. It's a great question because anybody watching would want to go to the city's website. There's a drop down to look for departments, and you can click on finance. And then once you've got to the finances main page, in the lower right-hand corner, there's a line for budget, and you can see the current year's budget and the last 9 years. We try to be transparent.
Okay. Is it possible if it could be put like the homepage of the website?
more prominently. Actually, this, Alex, go ahead and, let's restart the clock here. Alex, go ahead and let's, if you could list your questions, and then what we'll do is when you're all done, then we'll do the answers instead of back forth. So, go ahead.
Okay, so first question, where on the website can't be found, which was answered. And the second question was if it could be possible that it could be moved to the homepage, so that way it can be found much more easily. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alex. David Solano, our communications manager, would you please work with our communications officer? Would you please work with Thomas and IT about how we can make that a little bit more prominent? Very good. Thank you very much. Okay, and that being the budget. All right, and now we've got Karen Brigado.
Hi, everyone, again. I actually know about the biennial budget because I have looked at it. I've also looked at the biennial budgets of every city around us, including our peer cities. Every peer city has a line item or maybe a whole page for Arts Commission, arts in public, everything, except us. We have no line item for Arts Commission, and we're the only city that doesn't. And it would be a good idea to put a line item in the budget. And I have to say, this is my 5th year in talking to you about increasing the Arts Commission budget. You gave us $50,000. We can't go back to our almost 30-year budget again, January. We must have it increased. It's vital to this area to have it increased. We have programs that aid at-risk youth. We have programs that help the people that are on the risk of homelessness. We can employ programs, the Bloomberg study for asphalt art, that actually calms traffic, saves lives. We've got programs that aren't just the cherry on top. They actually help people in Federal Way. And I hope you will consider increase the budget.
Yes, Karen.
Thank you.
All right, are there any more public comments regarding the budget? Or budget amendment, excuse me. Okay. Deputy Mayor Hondo.
Thank you. I move to close the public hearing.
And action on this ordinance will occur later in the agenda. Item B, the 2024 property tax levy.
Mayor, we need a vote on that.
I'm sorry?
We need to vote on it.
I second the
that's
motion
right.
to close the
That's
hearing.
right, thank you. There's been a motion by Deputy Mayor Hondo to close the public hearing. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been a motion, a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, the public hearing is closed. Thank you. All right, item B, the 2024 property tax levy. I'll now open the public hearing. Steve Groom will give a report.
Thank you, Mayor. Who cares about property tax? Actually, everybody does. This is a public hearing, but what they don't want to hear is me explaining how property tax works. However, I'm going to anyway. On anybody who lives in Federal Way and owns property or businesses, this is what their tax bill looks like. The city, in my shading's a little bit subtle there, but the school district is 33% of the property tax bill. The state is 24%. Fire district is 16%. County is 11%. And then you get to the city's portion, which is 7%. So we're on there, and this right there alone is something that is generally helpful when we talk about when we're talking about our tax levy. We're not the only one. The process for the city's tax levy, we've got two pieces of the puzzle. We estimate our budget need. Now, we did this back in when we adopted the 2023-24 budget. So, but what we didn't know is what the county assessor would be bringing us this month for the current year's assessed value. Now that we know that, the city can request up to a 1% increase, and then that little asterisk, of course, is plus new construction. The new construction during the most recent year, the county assessor tells us that we've got nearly $200 million in additional value from new construction. That's a significant increase. The prior 2 years were around 40 million and 50 million. So our ask is up to the 1% plus the new construction, and then after that, the county assessor does the tax allocation, and they bill and collect. In one slide, I can save you the tedium of looking at the form that the county sends us. What I can tell you is that assessed value citywide has dropped 4%. The 1% increase amounts to a $117,000 increase to our budget, and the new construction is $131,000. The statutory maximum, if the current assessed value was levied at our cap of $1.60, that would be a $30 million tax levy. However, because of the 1% cap, the most we can ask for is $12 million. That will put our new tax rate at about 72 cents. Now, let me make this, I really tried to make this clear and easy to understand for anybody, and this is for anybody watching. If we had a city that only had 4 houses, and the city required $1,000 to provide the services to those 4 houses, total assessed value of those different values adds up to $1 million, so that we would need to assess a rate of $1 per $1,000 of assessed value. That would get the city $1,000. That's a simple scenario, and in the current year, if we take that simple imaginary city and add 1% to the levy and drop the values of the assessed value 4%, well, the city's going to need another $10. Where's it going to come from? The assessed value goes from $1 million to 0.96. The tax rate adjusts. It's a mathematical function. Nobody sets it. It's a function of what the city needs and what the assessed value is. And that is what gets the city its levy. And each of the homeowners then, you can see, get a 1% increase on their tax bill for the city portion. Assessed value didn't do a thing. So what I want you to notice is that the city doesn't set the rate, it doesn't do the assessment, it doesn't do the allocation. This is a 10-year graph, actually current 11 years, but 9 out of 10 years of the past assessed value for the properties within City of Federal Way, they've always gone up. This year it went down 4%. Prior year, it went up 19%. Prior year before that, it went up 13%. That's in the top graph, the blue bars. If you look at the graph below that shows how much the tax levy to the city has been, that's what a 1% increase looks like. And as you can see, the tax levy doesn't keep up with assessed value. The rate is just a mathematical adjustment. This year, because assessed values went down, the rate goes up a little bit. It's going to increase from about 68 cents to 72 cents. This is because the levy has not kept up with the increase in assessed value. There's some headroom. If the citizens wanted more services, if the citizens wanted the city to have more tax levy and they had services they wanted us to do with it, that's where we go to the citizens. It's the citizens and the voters that set the tax rate. If we were going to reset it, that would be the levy lid process. Now, we can only ask for 1% if inflation has been at least 1%, and the Department of Revenue sends us a little confirmation. But we already know, if we look back at the last 30 months, inflation over the last 30 months hasn't been below 1%. These two graphs show the same exact information 2 different ways. The blue bars show the rate of inflation month by month, and then the green shows it cumulatively, starting at $100 30 months ago. So the takeaways, and this is good messaging for taxpayers to know. Our city tax levy does not keep up with inflation. It doesn't keep up with assessed value, but yet we still have a balanced budget. How are we able to deliver services? We are increasingly relying on other revenues, primarily sales tax. Now, in the last couple of years, we've enjoyed high interest rates, so our investments have really bailed us out. That may not always be true because we know that the economy is cyclical. So that is the simple explanation that I come up with. The levy request, the city estimates the budget need. What did we put into our 2024 budget back when we were thinking 18 months ago? we put $11.9 million. And the county has said that right now their estimate of our maximum is 12 million. You'll notice in the ordinance, I've tweaked it up just a little bit more to 12.1. Reason is because the county will only give us up to what we ask for. They're still working through some appeals process. I think the only thing that can still change is that new construction number. So if we ask for a little bit more, they're not going to give it to us unless we've asked for it. So we went through a discussion fairly detailed at FedRAC. Right now is the hearing, and later on this agenda we'll introduce the ordinance, and then it can be enacted at the second reading on November 21st. That completes my presentation. This is a hearing open for questions.
All right, council, any questions? All right, is there any public comment? Oh, I'm sorry, Deputy Mayor? Okay. Is there any public comment on this?
No, Mayor, I don't have anyone signed up.
Anybody in the audience who'd like to talk on this? Okay. Deputy Mayor Honda, do you have a motion?
I do. I move to close the public hearing. Action on this
Second.
ordinance will occur later on in the agenda.
There's been a motion, a second. Is there any discussion?
I have a question on that real quick. I do have a comment. Should I do it now or do it at the voting time?
I think this would be a perfect time.
Okay. So I'm probably a little bit outside some of the other people up here, but when I sat out there on that side, I voted for a gentleman years ago, and his first vote was to increase the levy, and it bothered me a lot. And I talked to two businesses today who are looking at laying people off. Time's a little bit tighter for them right now, and I actually talked to Steve earlier and found out that you can actually bank some of this stuff and go to the people later on. So when we go to vote for this, I'm going to ask you to consider, do we want to lift it? Do we want to give a one-year break on people and give them a little something? It's 1%, it's 200,000, I understand that. But with the investments we've done with the money, we've increased an extra 800,000 what we had last time we talked about this. So I just want you guys to think about that, because that's what I'll be thinking about when I vote.
Thank you, Councilmember. All right, any other comment? All right, there's been a motion and a second to close the public hearing. There's been public discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, the public hearing is closed. Thank you. All right, council business. Thank you, Steve. All right, council business. A council discussion on the 2024 legislative agenda. First, we'll have a staff report from Bill Vedino, Policy Advisor. And he brought another PowerPoint.
And I can't find it. No, it's here somewhere. Sorry, I have a crowd of PowerPoints here, people.
I think it's down below. You see it down below? Right there.
There it is.
To the right. Right
Okay,
there.
Thank you. You taught me how to do this. Mayor, Council President, Deputy Mayor, council members, I'm here to more or less help kick off the council discussion on the process for the legislative agenda for the 2024 year. As you can see, unlike many other cities, I think we're very aggressive, not only with the mayor and people up there at the dais, but also our consultants in going out there to Olympia, forego Zoom and be there to talk about what we need to do. So what we're recommending is, as we look at the process for formulating our legislative agenda, this is going to include the potential issues for advocacy, which we're going to start and kick off on. And then at the next meeting in 2 weeks, or actually, less than 2 weeks, on the 21st, we will look at something that we'll all be working on in the next 2 weeks to adopt on the 21st. So attending that meeting will, of course, be Jim Hedrick, one of our lobbyists. Luke Esser, he'll be at another city, but I think he'll be able to weigh in remotely as well. And they will do a briefing, Jim in person, of what's upcoming with all the issues for the 2024 session. So we'll have a great preview of that so we know the lay of the land. But what we're proposing here is between this meeting now and then the next meeting, we will have discussions not only between council members, but also between staff as we sort of come up with a final document. And of course, these meetings, which I believe we all did back in 2019, that I coordinated with the council president, deputy mayor, there would be 3 of you and then staff would staff it, and then we would sort of have 2 groups of 3 and figure out a way to work in the 7th member or rotate the meetings so that we wouldn't have to notice public meeting rules. So, so that next meeting, we'll be finalizing the legislative agenda, and then, of course, as we talk about this soon, we're talking about a legislative breakfast, which is tentatively reserved for December 6th. So we can discuss that when we get to the end of this briefing as well, too. But when you get those briefing materials, we were just talking about this, we will go back the last 5 years of the agendas, so you have copies of them, and we'll have a spreadsheet so you can look at where we are and what has happened. And so we'll move with that. So what are the items that are from last year that the mayor and others are looking at for this year? Well, here they are. Number 1, number 2, and number 3 is reinstating police pursuits for car theft and other property crimes. While they believe they did it for pursuits of people who are fleeing from, from family disturbances and that kind of thing, we still need support. Also, as part of this is something that the mayor has come up with, and he'll explain that more, is us to advocate for a budget proviso for a comprehensive study to research the statewide impacts of car thefts. And we'll do this in partnership with local police, local cities, other governments, and our legislators. Because frankly, too much is too much. As the mayor alluded to before, we are number 1 in car thefts in the nation. I mean, number 4. We are number 4. And that's next to, in raw numbers, between New York, Texas, and California. And per capita, Washington, the state of Washington, is number 1 in the state. So we don't want to let go of this, even though there may not be that they don't want to necessarily deal with this. We want them to deal with it. We're going to put it front and center and also get the facts in front of them with the study and ask for a proviso for the study.
And to provide some context to this meeting with Representative Reeves, this was her suggestion in meeting with her. She's been a great partner on this issue. And when some of the pictures that we saw on the slide at the very beginning when Bill and I went down to Olympia and testified, both the House and the Senate on pursuit bills and on different variations of like food stalls. Do I need to start over? But when we went down to Olympia on several variations of that, this is something that's been ongoing. What we're being told now, and Representative Reeves has been a very strong advocate for the city of Federal Way to address this. And when we went down there last year and we were attempting to fix the pursuit bill, we were told that there weren't raw numbers, there weren't that we didn't have the right data. So in talking with Representative Reeves, I think it would be important for us to really wrap our arms around what the raw data is to come back and make a case that would be insurmountable for anybody with any common sense to address this. And so that is a strategy, and that'll be up to you whether you want to pursue that. But that comes from, that's not my strategy suggestion. Well, it is now, but it came from Representative Reeves.
And a lot of those raw numbers are in your packet that the public can see too, based on what the police chief has put together, not only national, statewide, but locally.
But I think it's important to note that I want to let everybody know, I was at a SCA regional meeting in which, it wasn't Sound Cities, it was AWC, Association of Washington Cities. And they were telling us that, the folks in the majority didn't want to hear about this, and that there was a non-starter, and that we should think about other strategies. And I want to let you know, I got pretty direct, and I said it's important. It is absolutely vital for us to put our foot down and ask, number 1, for police pursuits, and not care whether someone's little feelings get hurt about us asking for it. We've got people in this community every day having their car stolen, sometimes at gunpoint. And having stolen cars being used in the commission of crimes, having stolen crimes being run into businesses, this is a real crisis. So that will be, if it's up to you, my recommendation to be our number 1 priority. Number 2, I would suggest to you to take the representative's suggestion as sort of a backup to have. But Councilmember Walsh?
Yeah, I was just going to say this second thing, advocate for a budget proviso for a comprehensive study researching the statewide impacts of car thefts and who's committing them. If we're asking the legislature for that, and they are being not very cooperative anyway, it seems like almost that we need to be working with those cities in Pierce County and things. No, but before the legislature's in session, so that we already have a comprehensive study done that we can present to the legislature and say, hey, this is what's happening.
Well, I think.
Get off your butt.
Right. Well, A, we plan to do that. But B, I think what we want to do, that there's some metrics, I think, that would be good to accumulate. Now, I think also, and moving forward, and if we don't get success, what we want to make sure is that we keep the pressure up. One of the metrics that's going on here is pursuits of cars that had to be terminated by law. Since the law has been enacted for the past 2.5 years, there have been over 860 pursuits just in Federal Way that had to be terminated. 800, or I think it's. Hold on, it's actually in that memo. Hold on, I was grabbing a number here for my memory. This comes from Andy. What's the number, Bill? It's the
863 fleeing vehicles.
All right. No, since 2021.
Okay.
Since the law was.
That's almost, what is that? Almost 1 or 2 a day. That's an astounding number.
Our average in 2023 is 193 average per month here in our city.
Right. So far.
So far.
So anyway, so yes, but we also want it. So there's that metric. I think there's some other things that we could. I think that we want to do, if we're told no, is I think we need. But it's up to you. This is my recommendation. That this is a sort of a backup. Would we love for them to stand up and do this? Yeah. Do I think that's likely to happen? Our state representative working with us doesn't think so.
I have a comment. I'm kind of on the same page of Councilmember Walsh. I mean, we can do studies. We read the Federal Mirror every day. It's anywhere from 3 to 7 to 12 cars that get stolen, and we all know that the people who get them stolen, we heard about one lady here who spent, $7,000 over the last little while. And I mean, we can do a study, but how are you going to do a study on who's committing the crimes if you can't stop them, you can't chase them, and you can't pull them over and ask who they are, where they're from, and why they're doing it? I mean, it doesn't take a rocket science to see what's going on, and I don't know why we have to study that piece of it, because you're not going to, they're going to come back and say, oh, that's just your thoughts. There's no way to physically study who's taking the cars. We probably know.
Right.
What they're doing with them, we probably know.
They're still committing other crimes.
Because we can't stop them.
Right.
And so, if we have to do a study, we should be doing it now, tallying how much cars have been taken, what's been going on, how much it's costing the citizens. And you put that number together in King County and Pierce County and wherever, it's going to be staggering.
All right, thank you.
So anyway, that's just my comment on the part where it says study who's committing them. I mean, you're not going to get any good data on that. It's all going to be, they'll say, oh, you just made it up because you don't know.
Okay. All right, Council President.
So Brian, this is out of the box idea. Is there any way the city can sue the legislature on behalf of our citizens for the cars that have been stolen? I mean, literally, the only way you get public agencies to sit up and take notice is with publicity or by suing them.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to think about that. That's
Would you?
certainly out of the box. So
cool.
Give me some time and I'll tell you an answer.
Well, so here, what we'll do is, Deputy Mayor, go ahead, please.
Thank you. So in trying to figure out who's stealing the cars, if it's youth, which is what I'm reading about and hearing about from agencies around Puget Sound, that a lot of youth are stealing the cars. Our hands are tied on how we can interact with youth, how the law enforcement can interact with youth. So maybe that needs to be adjusted in the state legislature.
Okay, that's good, thank you. All right, we've got other provisions here, but during this is only the first run at this. Councilmember McDonough, do you have a suggestion? No. Not yet, okay. We've got other provisions here. What we'll do is, if we believe there's a consensus not to seek the suggested budget proviso, then it won't be part of our legislative agenda. And we've asked for our legislators to, come for a breakfast where we can all be there and discuss this with them. So if we just want to, we'll see what the consensus is when we meet. All right, let's go with the rest of the presentation, Bill.
Okay, as far as the transportation budget, our requests will include the city center access project, the 373rd traffic circle, improvements to Southwest 336, Southwest 340th corridor, and the Triangle project, as those continue. And we have partial funding for some, and we'll go into detail on that.
Well, let me explain real quickly. We've actually got funding, we got some funding from Puget Sound Regional Council. I think it was about half of that money, or how much out of the?
2.5 million.
We got $2.5 million from PSRC for the 373rd traffic circle is on Pacific Highway. There have been at least 7 fatalities in most recent years. We were getting some resistance from the legislature, so we went on. We're willing to put up about 1.2 or 1.5 of our own money plus the PSRC money that we have in our real estate excise tax and some other funding sources. What we want to do, because this is a state highway, and because we literally had to put a divider down, I had to order, after yet another fatality head-on collision, I ordered the left-hand maneuver on Pacific Highway south of 356 to Fife to be closed off and not allowed, because horrible things were happening when people were trying to turn left on that public highway right around 373rd. So what we're asking for is about $1 million of that. We'll get more into that in the details of that. The Triangle project has been on board, it's not completed, it's incomplete, but we've been working on that. This council, in various forms, have been working on that along with our state legislators, both at the federal level and at the state level, for 18 years. Yes.
Yeah, I think that for the benefit of everybody, it'd be well to explain just what the Triangle project is.
You bet.
That's
The Triangle are the at where in Shannon Park, where 348th essentially connect up with I-5, where 348th turns into Highway 18 heading east, or where Highway 18 comes into the city, right there at that junction of I-5 and 348th and Highway 18. Really one of the busiest locations, and so we've gotten a tremendous amount of resources. EJ, how much money do you think we've gotten for the Triangle, those flyovers and different investments?
So between the state and the feds, they've spent about 85 million on it to date, and it's about that to finish phase 2.
Yeah.
With the Triangle project, I went to DC 7 times to get 12 million in seed money for us to get the money from the legislature. And I thought at that time, I remember standing on top of that flyover thinking, I got the money for this flyover, but we still need the other side so we only have half of the Triangle done. We need the other side to relieve the traffic in that area. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, and we'll have more numbers on that, but I wanted to, 373rd was literally just a deadly location that we absolutely, and it's a state highway, so we're hoping to get some funds for that. All right, go ahead.
And then, of course, capital budget requests, including the turf ball fields, the Celebration Park, among others. And then maintainability of local governments to retain autonomy as they plan for growth, as we did last year. Condominium liability reform and housing affordability, as we discussed last year. Behavioral and mental health resources, as we advocated for last year. And then, because there are funds available that are out there for the environment and making things better in the environment, all the reason why our gas is higher. Funding for EV chargers, electric vehicles, and other buildings, or whatever we can do as a city to not only help the city, but also help the environment.
All right, Council, any questions or additional suggestions?
Yeah,
Councilmember Walsh?
Just on the behavioral and mental health resources, we need to make sure that addiction is included in that part there with the behavioral and mental health resources, the addiction
So we'll add that.
recovery.
Yep, okay, yes, sir. Okay.
And I just think that we need to narrow it. I mean, you can have all of that in your letter, but I think you need to narrow it down and take your top 3 and put a money amount by your
Which one?
top three, so that that's specifically what you're asking for, and it's the most important thing.
Got it.
Of course, with vehicle theft, we can just say, top, you do something or we will sue you. I don't know.
Or we just say, fixing the pursuit law priceless.
There you go.
All right, Councilmember McDaniel?
Yeah, one of them I'd like to see if we could add is, I talked to some builders today, and they were talking about ways they can maybe help increase some builds since it's slowing down. And one was talking about net zero, finding a way, I guess if you get solar panels, you get some tax incentives for that. Is if they build net zero houses, there's tax incentive for net zero housing builds.
All right.
Okay.
Very good.
So we will move forward with the meetings where council will get together in the groups of three, and we'll figure out what to do. The other individual will have staff involved. Staff's going to be giving input, and then we'll have it all together by the time we do the agenda bill.
Yeah, I think we should be taking a look not only at electrical vehicles, as we were talking with Jim Hedrick a few days ago, but also investments to our facilities.
Yes.
For just exactly as the council member was talking about. All right, any other suggestions, council? Okay, all right, no action is required, and we'll come back.
Mayor, I had my hand raised.
Oh, yes, sorry, council member?
No worries. So when we were talking about mental and behavioral health, usually they can't find beds for patients. So can we come up with a plan B so that when they're ready for help, to have some money set aside? So maybe we, and I don't know where that would be, but if it means going to Seattle or somewhere else to get help. But I think that's also key to their success. So I'd like to propose that.
Okay, well, let's tee that up for the discussion at the next meeting on the proposals.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, council member. All right, thanks.
Okay, thank you.
All right, now, moving on to item B, resolution, a declaration of intent to reimburse. Steve Grun.
Sir?
All right. Thank you, Mayor. Well, I don't know how to get rid of that. And this is short enough, I'm not going to mess around with it. Purchase of land for the maintenance and operations facility becomes part of the cost of the facility. And my intent to be able to pay for the whole thing is to spread it out over 25 years. This item is merely a resolution that expresses our intent. In order for us to purchase land in 2023, I need to borrow some money from our various, from a couple of our funds, so that when we do issue debt in the spring next year, I would like to have the ability to take our purchase of the land and roll it into the debt, and that way pay for it over 25 years. I think I showed you a slide earlier that says we're going to need to authorize budget so we can spend the cash. Then we can actually acquire the transactions with money temporarily. However, it's this resolution to reimburse that will allow the recovery at the time of debt issuance, and then we can come back when we have the design and the specs and all the bidding and the costs figured out. Then we can do the debt issuance. But I want to be able to amortize the total cost, including the land acquisition. So this is just, our bond counsel says, in order to roll this into the debt, we need to document our intent. And so I would ever so much appreciate it if you would join me in intending to roll the purchase of the land into the total cost of the maintenance facility when we go to issue debt. That's all there is to it. It's fairly straightforward. Here to answer questions.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Could you break down where the $8 million would actually go? It's in addition, it's not just purchasing the land, there were other things that were included in that. Do you have that?
For the land acquisition, there was, in addition to the land, there are some, yes. When we purchase some large equipment, it's common for us to add the tax and the shipping as part of the cost. So as part of the land acquisition, I understand that there's some things like, I'm coming up, I can't
Rent
remember.
assistance, moving assistance,
Yes,
closing
thank you.
costs, things like that.
Buy down.
Yeah.
So my question is on rent assistance and moving assistance.
I consider that part of the land. In order to acquire the land, we have to have it vacated, and whatever the negotiated terms are, that becomes the cost of our land.
Actually, state law on this, and I think EJ is best.
Yeah, so there's state law that, since we're obviously a government agency, that when we acquire property that is habited, so this does not, for the vacant land, we pay fair market value, and that's it. For properties that have housing on them, or there's people living on them, whether it's owned or rented, we are, as an agency, obligated to pay certain additional costs. So that, to Attorney Call's point, includes things like relocation, if it's an owned house. You mentioned rent assistance, so the state statute is that we are obligated to provide up to 48 months of rent assistance into escrow, and then they pay that for the delta for them to get into an equivalent unit in an equivalent area. And so, like, if the to the point that was made earlier during public comment, if they move into a new unit and the new rent is $1,200 and they were paying $1,100 today, we would have to pay $100 for 48 months that we pay as a one-time cost into escrow, and it gets dispersed directly to the rental company over time. So we only have one transaction with that, but we are obligated to pay that delta between their current rent and the future rent for a comparable unit. On property acquisition, it's a little bit different. So we have to pay moving costs. There is some provision if it's, again, equal house. It's called a market correction. So that covers a couple of different things. It's all formulas that are set out by HUD at the federal level that the state follows, which in turn we follow. And it covers things like buying down mortgage points. It covers things like, if there is not a house that's considered safe and sanitary of the same condition, we pay the delta on the sale price of that house. We turn all that into escrow. That ends up getting approved through HUD before settlement happens, as the checks and balances to make sure that everyone is being treated fairly on both sides.
So if moving costs include moving out of the county or the state, is there a limit as to what we are?
There is. So it is considered comparable housing. So that has a geographic definition that I want to say is 5 miles, but I would need to confirm that. And then if there's no house that's of the equivalent value and equivalent size and equivalent function within that can broaden slightly. If someone says, I want to move to Texas or Florida or something like that, they're entitled to effectively the same relocation amount that we would pay if we were relocating them that same distance. And then if they relocate further and they want to pay at their cost, the additional cost to go further, they absolutely entitled to do that. But we do not pay to move someone across the country.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Council, any other questions? Councilmember Daniel?
Yeah, since I'm still getting up to speed on this one, plus I'm sure there's quite a few people who might be watching it who are wondering how this all is playing out. We talked about this a little earlier, but I want to kind of replay some of that so it could be out in the public a little bit. Originally, I believe you guys said it was going to be $32 million when we had land that we thought we could use, but that was not an option. So when I first came in, the number was more at 43 million. It now looks like it's 47. That is for the actual design of the building itself. Is that correct?
No, so 47 is the all-in number. So that includes all the land acquisition we just talked about, all the design fees, all the construction, equipment moving. That's soup to nuts total number. The 32 number was the original number to replace in kind. And then, the direction of the council was to bring in fueling and fleet maintenance to provide cost savings. So the cost to do that was in addition to the 32 that you referenced. So that, I want to say, I'd have to get
7 million?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think it was 6 to 7 million for all of that. And that payback is pretty fast. So the fueling payback is 11 years, 9 years.
I know, we looked at it, but I don't have it memorized.
To pay back the fueling is more or less than half the time of the bond. And fleet maintenance is a little bit longer than that, but it's still substantially less than the bond length. So that increased the cost, and then yes, the additional land cost, and then inflation has caught us as well. So, I mean, this project is a couple of years behind where it was originally slated to be built. And, you know, we saw 21% CPI one year, 19 another year. So that has not helped us.
Gotcha. And the other one would be is, you mentioned 8, but for the land requisition, but when I'm looking at this resolution, it has 8.5 million.
That's an approximate amount. It's an approximate amount.
Which one?
The operative part of this resolution is just to express intent. The dollars don't make a commitment.
So the intent is just that we're going to pay it back. That's what we're discussing right now then?
I'm sorry?
So the resolution, can you say that one more time?
Sure. This resolution is to express our intent that the costs that we expend before we issue debt, we will be able to roll into the debt and then amortize over 25 years.
So the actual numbers don't lock us into anything? They could be lower, they could be higher? They could
Correct.
be-
It says approximately and not to exceed. Our expectation is that it doesn't exceed 50 million.
Expectations, so that can actually go past 50?
We will bring you the actual costs and the actual debt package when we have all the numbers.
It will not go past that without council approval, to be very clear.
I guess another way to phrase this is a housekeeping measure to allow us to bond this money later. So council's already authorized us to make this property acquisition, and we can spend that money. But if we want to later on bond it, this basically says, I know we already
together.
spent the money, but we also plan to, in the future, take out a loan. So that's what the resolution's about.
Gotcha.
All right, Deputy Mayor Honda, do you have a motion?
Yes. I move approval of the proposed resolution.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you. Ordinances, first reading. Item A, Council Bill 866, ordinance, the 2023-24 biennial budget mid-year amendment. We already had the staff report, it presented at public hearing. Do we have another public comment?
Nope, I don't have anybody else signed up.
Okay. Would the city clerk please read the ordinance title?
Council Bill 866, ordinance 2023-2024 biennial budget mid-year amendment, an ordinance of the City of Federal Way, Washington relating to amending the 2023-2024 biennial budget.
All right, Deputy Mayor Honda.
I move to forward the proposed ordinance to the November 21st, 2023 council meeting for second reading and enactment.
Second.
It's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously. Thanks. Item B, Council Bill 867, ordinance the 2024 property tax levy. We already had the staff report at public hearing. Is there any public comment?
No additional public comment.
Would the city clerk please read the ordinance title?
Council Bill 867, ordinance 2024 property tax levy, an ordinance of the City of Federal Way, Washington relating to fixing the property tax amount for the year 2024.
All right, Deputy Mayor Honda.
I move to forward the proposed ordinance to the November 21, 2023 council meeting for second reading and enactment.
Second.
It's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Could we discuss what Councilmember McDaniel brought up?
Steve Groom? Actually, could you come to the podium, please?
I know other cities have done this in the past.
About turning this down. What, let's get you at the
And
podium.
banking the 1% for later. Is that correct?
Well, let's,
The question is?
Ask your question.
No, it's the same question as before. We can literally, if this does not go through, the 1% is banked, and then if we do choose to go for it later on, it goes to a vote of the people with the justification of why we want to increase up to the $1.60 or whatever the number was.
The maximum that we can request increases 1% plus new construction every year. That amount accumulates whether we ask for it or not.
Okay.
Whether or not we can go to $1.60, that has to go to the voters. That's a levy lid lift that we would put on the ballot for the voters to determine what the rate would be reset at. Does that answer the question?
But you answered my question, so I know.
Okay.
what's the projected revenue by passing this?
12 million. 12 million annually.
The increase is 12 million, and the increase is
No,
200.
no, the revenue is 12 million.
What is the increase?
The increase is 117 plus 130, it's 250, 250,000.
Right.
On revenue of 12 million.
All right. Okay, thank you. Stay close, Steve, please. All right, Deputy Mayor Honda. Did we already, did you?
We already did all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right, we're on the
vote.
discussion.
On the vote.
There was a motion and a second, and the discussion. Is there any other comment or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All those opposed?
Nay.
Stephanie? Councilmember Safa-Dawson?
Aye.
Councilmember McDaniel?
Nay.
Councilmember Walsh?
Aye.
Councilmember Dovey?
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Honda?
Aye.
Council President Kochmar?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-1.
All right, thank you very much. All right, item C, Council Bill 865, ordinance related to a concomitant zoning agreement amendment for the Winco food property. At this stage, I will read the instructions for a closed record semi-judicial process. Council will now consider the Winco concomitant agreement amendment. The proposed Winco concomitant agreement amendment is a quasi-judicial land use decision. In making the decision on a quasi-judicial matter, the council acts in a role similar to a neutral adjudicator like a judge, and is bound by the appearance of fairness doctrine. Under the appearance of fairness doctrine, members of council are not permitted to prejudge or have biases regarding the matter. Additionally, the council must base its decision in this matter solely upon the official record, which consists of all testimony, comments, documents, and exhibits presented at the October 11th hearing before the city hearing examiner, which is included in its entirety in the November 8 tonight's regular meeting packet. Consistent with these rules, we will not be taking additional public comment on this matter tonight, as the council is only allowed to consider public comment that was made at the formal public hearing on October 11th. At this time, I will ask council members. Number one, do any council members have any interest in the property or the application or own property within 300 feet of the Winco property?
No.
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 All right. Do any council members stand to gain or lose any financial benefit as a result of the outcome of this decision?
No.
No.
Nope.
All right. Are any council members unable to consider this application in a fair and objective manner?
No.
No.
Have any council members engaged in any ex parte communication, i.e. outside of this proceeding, with either proponents or opponents of this application?
No.
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 All right. Do members of the audience wish to challenge an appearance of fairness grounds participation in this matter by any member of the council, including the reasons for the request? Anybody from the community, the council? The audience? All right, I see none for the record. All right, proceed, at this time, we'll proceed to Cheney Skadson, Senior Planner with the city.
Hi, good evening, Council. I'm Cheney Skadson. I'm going to be presenting the Winco Foods CZA amendment application. So just for a quick summary of the proposal, the applicant has requested to amend an existing concomitant zoning agreement for the property located at 160 Southwest Campus Drive, which is the existing Winco Foods property, to remove the applicability of the CZA to the Winco Foods property. On the screen here is a vicinity map. Yellow is the Winco Foods property, and the property we're discussing today. Just some general information about the application. The Winco Foods property is a parcel that's rectangular in shape, and it's around 8.4 acres. It's located on the northwest corner of Southwest 348th Street and First Avenue South. The property is currently zoned community business with additional regulations and restrictions on top of the base zoning as a result of the CZA. The property is currently developed with the Winco Foods grocery store. The reason for the request, so the applicant intends to partially redevelop the Winco Foods grocery store located at on the map I showed you earlier. Under the current limitations outlined in the CZA, a proposal to expand the existing grocery store to achieve a footprint over 80,000 square feet would be prohibited, as it would exceed the maximum allowed square footage allowed in the CZA. The request in the application is not to expand the Winco Foods grocery store. That would need to be done with additional permitting. The request is simply to just remove the CZA applicability to the Winco Foods parcel or the property, and therefore removing the limitations of a future expansion. So for some background, in 1990, the city and Quadrant Corporations, a Washington State corporation, went into an agreement, the original concomitant zoning agreement that was included in the packet. On June 4th, 1991, the Federal Way City Council approved ordinance number 9199, rezoning an approximate 14-acre site from single-family residential 9.6 to community business BC zoning, and adopting specific conditions as contained in the adopting ordinance. The CZA contains, among other things, limits to the allowable uses on the property, specific development standards for maximum building size, facade modulation, location of parking, buffers, open space, park development fees, and surface water improvements. In summary, the application, use process 5, the CZA amendment, and a use process 3 at the time were both applied for in August of 2021. The SEPA determination was issued in May of 2022. In August of 2022, the use process 3 application was withdrawn, and a notice of application and notice of public hearing were published in September of 2023. One comment was received on the SEPA determination. No SEPA appeals were filed, and no comments were received on the land use application, land use notice. I'm going to cover the review process here quickly. So pursuant to Section 3 of the CZA, the agreement may be amended by the city or the owner by filing an application, therefore, which shall be considered and heard in the same manner of the city-initiated quasi-judicial rezone on the property. Such action shall not release the owner or the city from any obligation assumed under the CZA unless and until such amendment has been approved by the City Council. Pursuant to Federal Way Revised Code 1975, city-initiated quasi-judicial rezones are treated as non-project rezones and must be reviewed and decided upon under a Process 5 application. That's what this is. Under a Process 5, the hearing examiner holds a public hearing and based on the record of that hearing makes a recommendation to City Council, who will ultimately make the final decision on the application. Outlined on this slide and in your packet is the decisional criteria that this application needs to meet and has met as provided in the packet. The recommendation from the hearing examiner from the October 11th hearing was, so the hearing examiner's findings of fact, conclusions of law, and recommendation received on October 24th based on that October 11th hearing states that the examiner recommends that the City Council approve the requested rezone application, which renders the 1991 CZA inapplicable to the Winco Food property. The mayor's recommendation is option 1, adopt the proposed ordinance. Any questions?
Council, any questions? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you. So this is simply to remove the size of the building and possibly increase it later.
So yeah, the CZA, it governs more than just the Winco Foods property, but Winco Foods property is the largest parcel and has the largest development on it and is most restricted by those CZA limitations. And it would be, this application is to remove the CZA applicability to Winco Foods so that the underlying zoning would just govern it. So BC doesn't have a limit on the size of a grocery store, whereas this CZA outlines very specifically a maximum size of a grocery store.
And the other properties over in that shopping center, do they support this or do they have concerns?
There's 3 other properties. 2 of them are developed. One of them uses parking. And they all were noticed. They all received letters. And I've talked to both 2 of the property owners regarding the CZA amendment, so they're aware. I asked if they wanted any additional information, and they were fine with it. This does not impact their properties.
Okay, thank you.
Council President?
Well, just curious, is Winco going to expand its footprint then?
Yeah, that is the intention.
And how much?
But that's not what's being approved here. I believe what was originally approved was to expand it around approximately 15,000 square feet.
Oh, good, I'm glad they're being successful.
All right. Council, any other questions? All right. Cheney, great job. Thank you. Would the city clerk please read the ordinance title?
Council Bill 865, ordinance relating to a concomitant zoning agreement amendment for Winco Foods property. An ordinance of the City of Federal, Washington relating to the approval of an amendment to the Winco Foods concomitant zoning agreement to remove the applicability of the concomitant zoning agreement to the Winco Foods property.
All right. Councilmember W., do you have a motion?
I move to forward the proposed ordinance to the November 21st, 2023 council meeting for second reading and enactment.
Second.
Been motion and second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Matter passed unanimously. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Cheney. Ordinances, second reading and enactment. Item D, Council Bill 862, the Highline Water District Franchise Ordinance. Would the city clerk please read the ordinance title?
Council Bill 862, Highline Water District Franchise Ordinance, an ordinance of the City of Federal, Washington granting Highline Water District a non-exclusive franchise to occupy rights-of-way in the City of Federal, Washington within the specified franchise area for the purposes of constructing, maintaining, operating, replacing, and repairing a public water system within and throughout the City of Federal Way.
All right. Councilmember Dovey, do you have a motion?
I move approval of the proposed ordinance.
Second.
Second.
It's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Matter passed unanimously. Item E, Council Bill 863, establishing the time of payment, interest, and penalties to be imposed on delinquent annual special assessment for the Lake Management District Number 1, Steel Lake. Would the city clerk please read the ordinance title?
Council Bill 863, establishing the time of payment, interest, and penalties to be imposed on delinquent annual special assessment for Lake Management District Number 1, Steel Lake. An ordinance of the City of Federal, Washington establishing the time of payment, interest, and penalties to be imposed on delinquent annual special assessments for Lake Management District Number 1 for Steel Lake.
Councilmember Dovey?
I move approval of the proposed ordinance.
Second.
It's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Matter passed unanimously. Item F, Council Bill 864. Actually, before we go any further, the screen is stuck. Could somebody, either Thomas or somebody, unfix the screen? So I don't know if that's where people are watching at home. Yeah. Yeah. Whatever it takes.
That's the technical term.
Exactly. All right. The unfixed. All right, thank you. Council Bill 864, Development Agreement Code Amendments. Would the city clerk please read the ordinance title?
Council Bill 864, Development Agreement Code Amendments, an ordinance of the City of Federal, Washington relating to amendments to the Chapter 1985 Federal Revised Code, Development Agreements, amending Federal Revised Code 1985-010, 1985-020, 1985-030, 1985-050, 1985-060, 1985-070, 1985-080, 1985-090, 1985-110, 1985-120, 1985-130, 1985-140, 1985-150, 1985-160, 1985-180, 1985-190, 1985-200, and 1985-210.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Dovey?
I move approval of the proposed ordinance.
Second.
It's been a motion, a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Matter passed unanimously. All right, on to number 11, council reports. We will start with Councilmember Lydia Sefadossin.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for giving me this, for allowing me to participate via Zoom. I'm at a conference in Austin, Texas, and actually I have nothing to report on, so have a good night. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Did you ask about the slogan of the town? Did I?
I did not. I actually forgot what it was that you told me to.
Their slogan is "Keep Austin Weird." You should ask them about it.
Keep Austin weird. Okay, I will. Thank
Somebody
you.
will know. Trust me. All right. All right, Councilmember McDaniel.
I think the main one is tomorrow's last day of the financial literacy class. I've enjoyed that. A lot of people have, I think, of getting a lot out of it, so I'm looking forward to when we do another one of those. And then also, last meeting, I complained about some lights being out. I counted them, and there's quite a few out. Not this week, not last week, but the week before. Half got fixed, and last week I was happy to mention that it looks like all the lights got fixed. So it's a lot brighter there, and it feels a lot safer.
That's great. We got a real crackerjack staff. Does anybody say crackerjack anymore? But anyway, a great staff. Councilmember Walsh.
I have no report.
Awesome. Great news. Councilmember Dovey.
Yeah, I'd just like to tag on to what Councilmember McDaniel just talked about. We've gone, I think it's 9 weeks tomorrow with our first financial literacy class in Federal Way. There was 19 people there all the time, total of 23. So I would view it as a very, very good success. The volunteers want to do it again in the first of the year. And Washington Employee State Credit Union would like to run a class also. So we could actually run 2 starting the first of the year and maybe double down and have 40 people or go to a class on 2 different nights. So I want to thank Bill Vedino for heading that up and troubleshooting it, and the mayor for allowing us to do it. And I'm going to advocate that we use some ARPA money that's going to come up here that somebody's going to present next week, that we continue this program and do the financial literacy class the way we've done it so far. But I'm really thankful that the people came, the volunteers helped, and it's been, I think, a very successful program, a good start.
Well, thank you for your leadership on this, and thank you, Councilmember McDaniel, and also Councilmember Seppa-Dawson, and all the council for supporting that. Thank you.
Question, can I ask a question about what Councilmember Dovey just said?
Yes, of course.
So is it a different curriculum, Councilmember? I know you and I had had this conversation, but I wasn't sure. So the bank is doing some different from the financial Dave Ramsey's program?
Yes, they would like to do a little different twist, so you could actually have 2 different curriculums going, same basic topics, just a little bit different. And I'll just add that the bank came forward at the community supper dinner that we had, the super supper. They sat at my table, we talked about it, and they volunteered because they have a program just like it that runs 6 weeks instead of 9, so we'll have to vet it out.
Councilmember,
Can we vet? Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. If we could vet it out, I'd really appreciate it.
Very good. Thank you. Councilmember,
Thank you.
what I'll do is I'll ask Bill and Tanya to get with you with regard to ARPA funding. We've talked about some numbers. Let's make sure that we're on the same page. Tanya, it's very important that we come back and make sure that we and work with Bill about an updated number on this as an option.
Yeah, my question also comes from, there's nonprofit agencies that did apply for the ARPA fund.
Yeah.
So we've put them through that process, and I really want to make sure that we're not doing this again and again and just leaving them out. So I really like to be part of that conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you. You bet. Thank you, Councilmember. Okay, now, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. First of all, I attended the Federal Way High School Drama Department Dracula play last weekend with my husband. It has 2 more nights, November 9th and 10th. It's about a 2-hour play. It's pretty cool. The acting was amazing. I have to really hand it to Holly Rose, who's a teacher there. The acting was amazing. The students did awesome. If you're at all available to go, it is at 7 p.m. on the 9th and the 10th, and it's really something you should support. We also attended the United States Army Field Band and Soldiers Chorus at the PAC on Monday. Yeah, that was Monday. And I think this is our 2nd year. It's the 2nd year that I know that they've been here, but it was, I love music, and it was really, really good. The only problem was parking, and that was a big problem. I heard complaints from a lot of people about the lack of parking. But I'm hoping they come back next year because the discussion on Facebook was like, I didn't know that was happening. I would have liked to have been there, and it was pretty cool. There was a little tiny girl sitting in front of me. She was probably under 2, and she was clapping her hands and dancing and just having a great time. So, you know, there were little tiny ones there and senior citizens there, and it was awesome. So thank you to the Army for bringing their chorus and their band, and the Canadian band was there also. So it was very cool. And to the PAC for holding it. It was, I hope they come back again. I'd also like to thank Sarah Bridgeford and King County staff for coming down last week to the hotel that will be used for health through housing, and letting us walk through it and ask questions. And thank you to all those folks who ran for office. It's not easy to run for office. It's, you know, you file in May and the election's in August and November, and it's really a long time. And it takes a lot of guts to run for office. So to those who ran, thank you, and to those who voted, thank you. Local government is the most important government that we have. And I wish more people would have voted, but those who did, thank you very much. And now we can rest a little bit.
Very good. All right, Council President.
Thank you, Mayor, for entertaining the idea of doing something in a historical manner with the Muckleshoot tribe. I think that's really important.
Yep.
Especially for our children to understand. Also, do we know whether or not we found any money for the multi-service center?
We'll find it.
Steve?
Right? I love Steve. What we'll do is I've got authority to up to 19, and I hear the direction, the consensus about that. Well, we'll keep you informed. Steve, let's talk about this first thing tomorrow. Okay? But what we're going to do, I'm going to be transparent about this. It's taxpayer dollars. The first thing we're going to do, consult with the budget, figure out exactly what's in there. Second thing we're going to do is get on the phone with the multi-service center and the senior center, figure out where they're at, figure out if there's a need, and then.
There's always a need.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh.
But I see Councilman.
Sure. And the, oh, I'm sorry. Were you, Jack?
Oh, no. Can I make one more comment?
Yeah.
I wanted to thank the city and the King County elections for having the voter registration downstairs. My father-in-law, who moved here from California, is 97. He actually got to go downstairs, register to vote.
That's great.
And vote yesterday, because he didn't want to miss, he's voted since, I don't know, he was 18 or something in World War II. And it was a big deal, and my wife was able to bring him down here to register to vote so he could vote in Federal Way. Wow. And they actually posted a picture of him on the Department of Elections Facebook page as the oldest voter to register yesterday. So anyway, I want to thank whoever organized it, made my father-in-law have a great day.
That's great. That's very nice.
Oh, that's great.
Council President, anything else?
No, you know, the other thing too, when you're shopping for your Thanksgiving meal, you know, sometimes the stores will give out a free turkey if you bought a turkey, or if you've purchased over a certain amount of groceries. Just bring it over to the multi-service center on 12th and South 336, drive around to the back of the building and drop it off, or Senior Center, east of the freeway on Military. What's the address, Jeff? 370th and off Military, or?
I think it's 352nd. off Military.
352nd, just off Military, just head west and you'll find it.
It's in the dip.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I have one more.
You know, when people are talking about rent, needing money for rent, if you can alleviate their food budget, maybe they'll have the money they need for the rent. Yeah.
Here. Deputy Mayor?
Most years, the Federal Way Kiwanis Club and the Federal Way Historical Society do a veterans program with our ROTC cadets at Todd Beamer and Federal Way High School, and we're not doing that this year, but I would encourage people to go to Auburn to the Veterans Parade. It's the largest veterans parade west of the Mississippi, and it's a big deal. So if at all you can go, it would be awesome. Thank you.
Great. Council, great job. It's an honor to work with you. Thank you, staff, for all your work, and thank you to the public who showed and who participated and were present tonight. We are adjourned.